All right. Welcome to the Lead Generation World podcast. My name is Michael Faree. It's good to have you guys with us again today. It's been a little while since we've had our last podcast, and so I'm excited to bring an old friend and industry veteran on this episode. I'll introduce him in just a second. But before we get started, I do want to mention we got a couple things going on over here at the Lead Generation World office. One is contact.io. Contact.io is going to be in September 12th, 13th, and 14th in Denver at the Hyatt Regency. All things calls, texts, and messaging. So call marketing, contact best practices, text messaging best practices, everything that has to do with, like I said, call marketing, reaching out to prospects, communicating with your clients, all that sort of stuff, which I know you all do and value as a really important part of closing leads into sales. So we hope to see you there. You can go to contact.io to get more information. And then we just announced that Lead Generation World is going to be coming to San Diego in 2022. So really, really excited about that. I mean, we got an awesome venue. If you're tired of going to Las Vegas for conferences, this is going to be literally a breath of fresh air because we've got so many things happening outside. And then of course inside the exhibit hall floor and the session hall. You're definitely going to want to check it out. So you can go to leadgenerationworld.com for that as well and check out what we got planned for San Diego. But enough of the advertisements. I do want to bring on, like I said, a good friend, Wade Schlosser from Solvable, which he's been in the industry for, gosh, I don't want to date him, so I'm gonna wait until we get him live to figure out how long. But he's been in the industry for quite a long time. So let's go ahead and bring in Wade. Wade, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Mike?
Good. So you were giving me hand signals, and I think you said 21. Is that 12?
21. I wish it was 12. 12 years ago, this wasn't here.
Yeah, right. And I think the first time we met, maybe we should tell a little story, and this will kind of get us right in. I don't think you had that beard, but you did have the scruff. I think scruff has always been like a Wade thing, right?
Yep, just a little bit there, but always a little more clean shaven. You were back in the days when you had to come in. You might even wear it. You might have wore a coat jacket, maybe a tie still back in the day. Remember?
Yeah.
I had to present myself very well when coming to visit Mike.
Those were the days where, people got dressed up sort of to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, with COVID and just working from home, it's for me, it's the black T-shirt is about as dressed up as I get these days. But that was in the Zip Search days when I was on the lead gen side of things, and you were at affiliate media. No, wait, what was it?
There you go. Keep backing. It was Affiliate Programs was the original one. Yep. And so, we had a big directory there, and then we started to do agency work, and then fell into you guys. And then that's how we met you. It was an awesome time. That was a fun program, wasn't it? It was like Quote Match or something was the name of the site. I mean,
it's funny you remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was because it was so popular. I mean, you should have saw the affiliates and the partners. Everybody wanted just to have more of it.
I think, one of the things that they did well there was I think the creative was pretty good.
Yes.
If I recall. I mean, we had a guy, Tim, I wish I could remember his last name, but the creative, Tim Tuttle, actually, and he's still doing a ton of creative. You can find him on LinkedIn. But he was just really, really great at coming up with very simple, straightforward landing pages and creative that weren't too like cluttered and all this sort of stuff. And I think, they converted relatively well.
It's exactly like you just described. It was the buttons were just perfect. The colors flowed. There was white space already. He had the big arrow. We always called it the arrow pointing over to the thing. And it's just, he was in the, it was bold kind of titles and stuff. He was really, the Zip Search was ahead of their time. It just felt much felt large, and it was innovative. It was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so how did you, you are, you went to school in Long Beach, but you're not from Southern California, Nebraska, right? Or
Yeah,
Arkansas? I
you
know.
might. Yeah, you're gonna hear some slang come out. It might have a little draw to it, here and there.
You
I
think you still think you hold on to a little bit of that? I mean, come on, you've been
still
here
think
for
so when I listen.
25,
Yeah,
how many years?
yeah, absolutely. I still think I've always tried to not talk away, talk a
Yes.
little more English and a little more smooth, but it's always there. It's always there.
Yeah. But so what was it, Nebraska or Arkansas though?
No, Nebraska. Yep, you got it.
Nebraska.
Yeah, go Big
Yeah.
Red.
Yeah. So, but how'd you get out to, what made you get out to Long Beach to go to school?
I had a couple of my best friends came out here. So one went to they landed in South Orange County, and then they went to Loyola up in LA. And so I wanted to go to a big school, and I just picked one on the map, and it was Long Beach.
Yeah.
And then, when I came here a year and a half later or something, met the wife, obviously got into internet marketing, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you get back to Nebraska. You still have family and all that kind of stuff back
Yeah,
there.
we're heading back in 2 weeks. We'll visit Omaha. That's where we're from. So we'll visit Omaha for a couple days, see some old friends, get caught up with some of the family. And then we go down to Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks in the Missouri.
Awesome.
Which many people don't know about. It's just this awesome hidden gem down there. So just lots of boats.
We all know about it now because of the HBO show, The Ozarks.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't know if you ever did you ever watch that series?
I had to, of course.
It's such a great series. Hopefully they come back. But wait, you mentioned that we have friends there. So was she from Nebraska as well?
No. She's from
Okay.
out here. Yep. She's from South Orange County.
Okay. I was like, that's pretty random to come out here and then meet somebody from the same, area, that kind of thing. But all right. So you went to Cal State University, Long Beach. How the heck did you initially get into internet marketing? Like, what was it? Was it just simply the first job you can find, or was it something a little bit more specific and strategic?
I think it was mostly like us all. We all kind of fall into it a little bit, but I always felt that, I was going to school for business. We had a computer at the house with Prodigy,
Yeah.
Prodigy. And I always kind of felt that was kind of cool and unique, and I had some friends geeking out. So when I went to the job board, I was specifically looking for a marketing company, and the internet always popped out. And that's when I applied for the job. We went and got tested. We had to do all of our computer skills and everything. And it was actually at a company that was part of New Century Mortgage back in the day. And it was, they were doing their affiliate program and digital marketing for them. And so I came in just right fresh out of it, fell right into, I was born into lead gen, born into affiliate marketing and digital, right? It was the strangest thing. So, and never left.
So the company that you were working with was New Century.
Well, it was Internet Marketing Center of California. It was a small boutique company. And so they had the New Century contract. And then what happened was then we kind of left, and then I would go work directly with them, and then we kind of came back. It was a long-term relationship. We really exploded that program. That was at the height of, AmeriQuest, New Century Mortgage. Who else? There's 4 main players at the top there.
Yeah,
lots of
and were they doing the subprime stuff? Is that
Yep.
it was
Yeah.
and that was pretty crazy. So you got into it and really got your feet to the fire pretty quickly on a big being able to watch a big affiliate sort of campaign sort of be built and run.
Well, and we never we started on I think it was called My Affiliate Program. Did you ever remember that? It was My App, or Todd, what's his last name? Started it and sold it, and we started on that. Then we went on CJ. But I'll tell you, that was the kind of cool thing is when we started the affiliate program, we started doing it. What I did is I jumped on the phone and called all the affiliates and recruited them. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, Mike, nobody did that. Nobody talked to the affiliates.
Yeah.
And that
No
was like,
relationships or anything.
it's
It's just some
nothing.
blind, campaign you post up on a directory and that's it.
Bingo. And so it sounds like, wow. But that was I guess if you look back at like what was the needle mover, that was revolutionary to talk to them and go, oh, there's more to do. What else do you have? And you built a relationship. And that's how that really started to take off, just by calling them. And nobody told me to call them. It wasn't part of the plan. We just didn't, nobody did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you doing that at Internet Marketing Center? Or was that after? Is that sort of the genesis of starting your own thing and creating those relationships?
I mean, guys, I had great mentors. The owner of that company was a great mentor, leading down the path, where I came from, into affiliateprograms.com with Warren. All those guys were great mentors. But I'll tell you what really happened was I was always a part of it. I had a complete autonomy. There was nothing. It wasn't like I could go out, hire anybody I want, recruit all the affiliates. I, shared in all the winnings that we all had. So I was always the entrepreneur part of it all the way through my whole life, right? I just had the freedom to do whatever I wanted all the way through, with their mentorship and guidance, of course, and basically funding to do whatever you had to do, So yeah, I mean, all the way through the whole business, ran the P&L all the way through how we wanted to do it, which direction we wanted to go, had to put all the landing pages together, the whole thing. So it was basically, I think that's the training that I got to be able to, start Forward Leap and then eventually into Solvable, right? So lots of training going on.
Yeah, and I want to get to that, but I'm kind of curious, with the evolution of sort of the affiliate marketing space, or lack thereof, evolution. That's what I'm kind of curious at. Like back, in 2004, 2005, 2006, all those years you were, sort of coming up in the industry. What was it like managing affiliate campaigns? Because I suppose my guess is that you didn't know what you didn't know, right? So you're putting campaigns out there, you're running them, and maybe you're not sure how to manage quality. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what it was like, managing affiliate campaigns then, and maybe how it sort of evolved or changed to what it is today. I know it's sort of a big question, but
yeah. I mean, I think, and I've heard this kind of discussed, you hear this at the conferences and but you're right. It's lack there. I mean, I err to the side of a lot of it's the same than it is different, but there's a lot of people that go, this thing's totally innovative. It's innovative in the fact that there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no TikTok, there was no mobile phone. This thing radically changed how we design, how do we target, how do we do all this stuff. The data wasn't there. So there's radical changes that have flipped this entire industry on its head. But then you go back to the fundamentals. If you're to draw a business plan, maybe of how to do this, well, doesn't come down to recruiting, relationships, making sure that they ramp up at a certain segment. Legal is much different now, as you've all talked about, and between all your guests and everything, legal is different between TCPA, can spam, ambulance chasers, to now iOS. The changes that happen within the platforms that affect our advertising and how much it costs, and how they don't like affiliates per se, which that's not what we're, an advertiser, but. So there's a lot of massive innovation that has been made it fun, that you just have to keep going. And literally it's still happening every 3 or 6 months, something's happening. But to build the relationship, to run the traffic, to keep them incrementally growing and trying different things together and pumping new, fresh creative out and making that happen, that's a very similar process, right?
Yeah.
Except now there's even some automation in the whole thing. I mean, you still got to send the newsletter out. You got to inform them what's going on. You have to, when they hit caps, auto emails. There's automation now that you can start introducing a little bit, but the process seems to be the same.
Yeah. One of the things like I remember is, we didn't have at the time, any fraud detection was just sort of starting to come out, and you would try to monitor IP addresses,
Bingo.
and
Yep.
distances, and that sort of thing. That was sort of the basic thing. Really, the only thing you could do is like if you were going to catch somebody, in the affiliate space, generating questionable traffic, it was where are their IPs located? One. The second thing was how far are those IPs located to the address of the lead. Is
Yep.
IP in New York and the guy's in California? That doesn't make any sense. But that was sort of it, and it was a very reactive approach to trying to. It was like whack-a-mole, right? You're like, oh shit, this one's bad, this one's bad, this one's bad, and then you're just like trying to pop up as many. So it was kind
Yep.
of a juggling act. I wonder if that's sort of still the same. I know you're not really in that affiliate world,
No,
right? You're doing the brand. Okay.
No, I mean, the majority, our traffic, a lot of it, majority of it is still partnerships that run in, right? You never leave that. But I don't think it's whack-a-mole. I would say that for us, and I think how major advertisers have evolved in the space is that we have to layer on now data and fraud solutions. And so we have it all the way until, and scoring, big things. So now when you have the likes of you can have Infutor to Anura to all these things, you come in and you start to go, okay, at the top level, what's happening throughout the network, and then that pops a grade, and then it pops an alarm, and then all of a sudden that goes down a different funnel, and then the affiliate manager is alerted and you go, and then it comes down, it might roll into the email software programs that say, oh, subject lines, you're not supposed to use those unapproved subject lines, and you're popping that stuff. And then you got your normal IPs stuff that you're looking for. And so there's this whole funnel of technology now that's created, that's graded and weighted all the way through to like basically bring it down to a solid lead. And then, as close the loop. And is this working for the end buyers? Are they actually making an ROI on it? So that whole stack has to be built now to be successful. Otherwise, it is the old school whack-a-mole chase, turn off, turn on, turn on, turn off, turn on, turn on, and everybody's chasing their tail. And you guys, in order to be real, you have to spend the investment to build that stack. I mean, it's where you're at.
What's interesting though, 20 years ago, again, kind of going back and forth, it would be impossible to do that without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars because there weren't like these systems out there. And now there's like sort of the barrier to entry was back then was, well, you have to be able to get a code and build out a distribution platform to sell, leads. Cause it wasn't like a, I don't know, name any one of the
cake. Yeah. Like a cake or a path or yep.
Yeah. I mean, it just wasn't there. And it wasn't. Now you have all the technology applications in there that you can build that stack, right? And you could, anyone can relatively get something going with a lower amount of investment,
Exactly.
But I suppose it's making it a lot easier, but it's also making it better overall for quality and these campaigns to really thrive with brands.
Yeah, it's short side versus long-term thinking a little bit, right? If you got to you put that stuff in play, and therefore the advertiser has to be winning, the affiliate has to be winning, you buying the traffic, everything has to be winning in between. Otherwise, it just doesn't last. And I know it seems like common sense, but I mean, it just has to be that way. Otherwise, it just bounces all over the place. You never can scale it.
Yeah. So you've done the on the affiliate side, managing a bunch of relationships. You started Forward Leap Marketing, and now you've got Solvable. Tell me a little bit about Solvable and what you're up to there.
Yeah, so Forward Leap still is going, and that's kind of our direct response agency side of it, right? That's really a lot cranking through there, and Solvable is really just born out of a brand that we wanted to put together. And it's cool little story of how we, CMO walks by we always wanted to do this. We always wanted to put something together. He walks by my desk, says, hey, what do you think of the name Solvable? And we talked about this in the interview process. We wanted to build this, but this was, I don't know, a year later, 6 months later. And then he kind of chats for a second, and then he walks away. And I'm sitting here like this. I'm like, that is a really cool name. So I Google it, and I start looking it up. Well, someone owns it. So it's someone in New Jersey in the middle of nowhere. And so I negotiate that whole thing. And then here Solvable starts to come to life. Well, Solvable, I think what we wanted to do, the original play, and nothing, I think another lesson to learn is, nothing ever really turns out as you expect it to be. You just need to keep doing, keep moving, one step, 1 foot forward, take action all the time. And we wanted to be kind of alleviate, we wanted to basically get rid of America's debt. So we wanted to, Solvable was to solve America's debt. And that's how that was born. And so we had this mission, but really it was much bigger. We started to compete with Credit Karmas, and you start to compete with all the other brands out there, Nerd Wallets and that stuff. And we started to say, well, that's not who we are or what we wanted to be. So thank God for COVID. What we did is refocused our effort. And that's what Solvable came to be. Solvable is really a marketplace for people to come save on their taxes and shop and save, right? So it's a taxes shop and save marketplace. And that's what it is. And so you come in, you fill out the form, you get matched with somebody that could help you. You get to choose who you want to pick. And there's alongside with, we're trying to build a community behind this whole thing. And that means that we have our experts and these tax advisors participating in our content and building content for us and really becoming a part of community. And we're trying to just bring us all together with meetups and teach each other how to work leads, close leads, advertise, sell. And then eventually they take our leads and they do better with our leads and treat the customer better. It's this whole ecosystem that's being built there. So that's really kind of the long-winded version of the, a little bit of where it kind of started and where it's kind of going. And so we're building on that every day.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things there. One is, I mean, I fully agree with the sentiment that success is really born on the back of mature lead buyers that understand how to work leads and how to do different things, right? Because if they're not really understanding how to do that, then you're not going to be successful. They're not going to be successful with the data that comes from, or the leads that come from Solvable, or those clients won't get what they need.
Right.
So helping those individuals is great. But I'm you coming from the affiliate space where you sort of had your eyes on so many different brands. I'm sure you learned a lot of what success, what works and what doesn't work. But I'm curious how you apply that to this, in that you're competing against like credit card, these big budget brands, right? You're in a space where there's behemoths in it. So how does like how do you approach that when you're sort of trying to carve out your piece of that pie?
Key word probably would be focus.
Yeah.
So imagine, we've all heard talking about the niches, right? Riches in the niches,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. So we're in tax debt is where we started. Well, tax debt, there was no leader out there. It was tax debt is the fourth largest debt that America carries, guys. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody. It's not in the headlines very often. It's all student loan debt, 1.8 trillion. Credit card debt has risen to 1.2 trillion. Mortgage debt and defaults, blah, blah, blah. Do you hear anything about tax debt?
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. That's the scariest collection agency on the planet. When you get that letter, let me tell you, there's nothing you can do. They can garnish your wages. They can levy you. These other guys, you can claim bankrupt. You can go hide and then just forfeit all this stuff. That doesn't happen, right? Yeah. Student loan debt, yeah, you have some issues there. But so that was kind of the premise of starting to get into that space, finding out who the main players were, starting to figure out what the numbers and the metrics work, and just building on finding the right traffic, building the right sites, getting the right things going through, really building that up. But it's a big problem nobody's talking about. So now we built Solvable to try to go out there and educate people, because there's a lot of people that come through, and you can do this on your own. So go ahead, do it on your own. Let us show you how to do it on your own. But when you run into problems, now we've built the trust that now you can come back and try to get some help. Building the products and services to really help them move through this issue. And then we're always there we call it, do it with me, do it for me, do it yourself. So we're covering those areas that there's those pieces that somebody goes, well, can somebody do it with me? I just want somebody to do it for me, or I'm going to go off and do it on my own. Fine. Here's all the different areas and ways you can go. So I just think that focus is the biggest thing that you can do. And tax debt we chose it. We're going a mile deep, not a mile wide. We're figuring out all the issues. And now guess what? Companies within companies are born. Now you figure out what my clients have real trouble with. That's why you got to build the education piece. You got to build the texting and email platform for them to use on our back, right? Because they don't know how to follow up properly with leads. Well, when you go out there's a million of them to choose. How many CRMs? It's overwhelming. Which CRM do I use? But when you speak directly to a CPA, to an EA, to a tax attorney, and you're going, hey, we're built for you. This is what we're doing. This is the case studies we have. You immediately build trust because you're speaking their language. That's what a niche does. We all go chasing after the money. They want to look for a new niche, and my mortgage clients went down. Better get into home services, and it's like, no, keep working that area, right? Because you'll have less ups and downs. So that's my belief. There's a argument. You can skin the business any different way that you want to, right? And diversification is a vastly important thing. But you can still diversify going a mile deep with your products and services offered out to ancillary pieces of those businesses. And that makes you a strong player. Any piece of your business takes a hit, you're fine. Unless the whole industry gets whacked, right? Which it's not going to happen. I don't see that happening, right?
Yeah, and I think what I love hearing about this is that so many times there's a perception that we're lead gen companies or professionals are always just jumping to whatever the next hot thing is, and they really don't care what they leave behind as they go around and jump into vertical after vertical and leave their waste behind, kind of thing. I like hearing the investment into the overall health of the industry and making money, of course, but solving people's problems, the clients, making sure they have a good product, all that sort of stuff. You're more invested in it than just making a quick buck and leaving.
Yeah. And so I think to answer your question, you said, well, how are you going to compete with those guys? I mean, first of all, it's tough, but I can still make it to page one. I can still go and advertise on PPC. I'm in areas of marketing that they don't know because affiliate marketing has taught us how to, affiliate marketers are some of the most innovative guys on the planet. They're the first to go, and they have such thin margins. They have to figure out how to make this work. So you get to learn, Reddit or you get to learn little pockets. And so the point is those guys are focused on their big money makers, and they might got little teams that are messing in my space. But when Google and stuff looks at me and sees all of the links and talking about how we're always talking about taxes and helping consumers and being interviewed by it and links coming in from CPA websites and all this, we make it to the front page. If not, we're in the top 3. And then we're able to, as we're speaking more and more to those consumers, they're just converting higher through us, right? So I think that's how you're competing. You're competing because you're going so deep into it that you are the master behind it. You've mastered, you're going for mastery all the time. You're getting the black belt. And how do I get the 2nd degree black belt, 3rd degree black belt,
Yeah. One of the things too is like, going back again as an example to those affiliate days, you're seeing all these different campaigns from different industries being run. My guess is it's not a one fit, all for each industry, right? What works maybe in, senior living won't work in, debt collection. But so how do you currently sort of navigate, optimization and getting things to convert the way you want to within your organization?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I'd love to bring, can I show and tell here for a second?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Right. So one of the key, let's see if I can bring this up. One of the core competencies of our business, and I think that's, anybody as an owner or entrepreneur or manager, anybody, you just as anywhere level in your business, try to say like, what's the pillars of the business, right? What's a needle mover? What's if we leverage these 4 things and pull those are going to make happen. Well, A/B testing is something that I think is huge. And if I bring this over now, let's see if I can grab it. Hang on one second.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me see if I can, I'm going to share the screen and then we're going to, okay, can you see anything?
If you did you hit that share button?
Yep. I'm going to stop screen. I'm going to do something. I think it'll let me do another one. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to do this one. Here we go.
Ah, perfect.
All right. Okay, you see it? So now, present.
Yeah. There we go.
Perfect. Okay, so if you go here, guys, like we do a lot of A/B testing. Let's see if it's taking a minute to load. So you see, like, here's a website. So mobile's highly important. We know the names of it. We have this whole system that we go through. And look, here's one that this is a core competency. Like, does the site look all that much different? Yes and no. One has, it's called focus in debt selector. So you're testing the background, which our famous Tim Ash talks about constantly.
Yeah.
Get those goddamn backgrounds off. Get those moving people off your site. Stop the movement. It's a distraction. Let me just quantify our buddy Tim Ash for a second, right? So Tim, this one's for you, bud.
Yeah. Well, so let's, real quick, we're looking at here. You got a slide up, and you've got a control on the left with that background. Looks like an image of some sort of individual, and then you got on the right without it. Is everything else the same?
Same. Yep.
Okay.
True A/B test, right? Then you go through and you go, well, what did that do for us?
Yeah.
So I ran it for 36 days. I generated 19% under 10K, over 10K. And revenue, what it did for our revenue was a 92% increase. Now, this came down. So it sees week over week. You see the at the bottom, week over week, seeing positive numbers, rollout variation A. So we let this go for about another week, and it kind of slipped down into the 60s a little bit and just ran it for a little bit longer. But that's a long time to run this with enough traffic and enough leads to call the ball, right?
Yeah.
But that is just
so what you guys do here, you guys are doing consistent A/B testing. And this page right here, what I can see is it converted at 14%. The other,
let me go back. Yep.
The last one was at 10. So a 4% sort of differential there, an improvement. Is that right? Is that CVR? Yeah.
Yep. And then you're over 10K because it's just like a purchase lead in mortgage versus, a refi lead at a certain amount. They're all worth something different. Well, we just try to simplify it. Well, over 10K, under 10K, big difference in worth to us. So if it generated a big lift in under 10K, not much in over 10K, you're going to say, maybe we don't touch it,
Yeah. So did you say it started to slip though, after you ran it for a little bit, the conversion started to kind of dip a little bit? What do you attribute that to?
Sometimes you don't know type of traffic, time of that you run it. So maybe there's holidays or something going on in between there. Sometimes, and especially was there letters going out? There's all these outside factors. Letters, meaning IRS letters, when they hit the street, we get a big lift, right? Because everybody's panicking, right? So you're just making sure that all those things didn't hit. And I wouldn't know specifically. The team does. There's a team of 3 that run this, and then this CMO and my project lady make the call on it. But I mean, there's just a lot of this going on. So there's roughly, you know, we own somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 pages rolling out live plus Solvable, right? So 23, because Solvable is a different one. And then this is just crazy. Yeah. So this is a core competency that has been developed, you know, through us, that I just think that, can you imagine? And people say, well, it's not, you know, I'm not going to get much out of it or whatever. We're still finding double digit gains. This is almost 2 years into this program.
Yeah.
And I know this seems obvious, but I mean, I can share so much, just how to flow, where to put the buttons, the colors. This is so vital. So that compounds your revenue, which allows you to go, what's going on with media prices? They're going up. Okay. What's going on with the consumers? They're more distracted. You better be on top of this stuff, because otherwise you're just going to have your lunch eaten. You're going to get squeezed. Eventually the sandwich is just going to close. Yeah. And so I think it's just, I'm glad you let me share. It's just one of the things
no, it's really, really cool. I mean, I think you mentioned too, you know, about, you know, hiring a data consultant and getting into the analytics of different things too. Cause it's one thing to, like, you know, look at these things and change certain things, but really diving into the analytics of your campaigns and all that sort of stuff is a whole other level, right? I mean,
yeah, it's like Moneyball. I had, if you remember the old credit score guys, and I'll even credit Mr. Alex Chang, who was big on credit scores. They were One Technologies, founder of Credit Score, and we're down there and we helped really explode their program. And we're down there having dinner, and he goes, this was before the movie came out, you need to read Moneyball. And so he said, this changed our company. And those guys went from 8 million when we knew them to $130+ million, right? Very, very hell of a ride. Well, that just stuck with me. So I said, now when we build this next company, so our CMO is big into data. Our whole team is highly trained in what to look for, how to look for it. And just, it's really cool. We have a data analyst on the back end to support the whole process. This team right here is made up of analysts. You know how you have a company built of engineers? We're kind of built of the data guys, right? And so we're able to constantly just be optimizing and not having these false starts and false numbers and false things pop up where you make rash decisions and make the wrong. And that's hard. That takes that takes a training to happen. So it's just great to have these teams. And I think in this world with COVID and how our industry has changed, this team's not on my pay. I mean, they're on the payroll per se, but it's just an independent, cool team that we found that through great relationships that I was introduced to. They're on their own. And now I get a hell of a value. They get to have a lot of fun with people they like to work with, make an impact, see wins, and I get to get it at a reasonable cost. You know, so this model is built on this social experiment that I always thought some of the core, you know, our executive team needs to be in-house, and then we can outsource the rest of it. Well, that's how this is built. That's why we're able to really generate and be agile, and you still got to take care of that team out there as if they were family, you know?
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that, because that's an interesting point, right? I mean, because I think what I just heard you kind of say is that you're able to sort of leverage, you know, these experts, but leverage it at a potentially a lower cost than you would if you were, you know, hiring them full time, of course, or they're in house. But you're getting that high level expertise. Is that kind of what I heard you say?
Perfect. We call it internally, it's called masterminds. Right? We just call it masterminds. It's like,
so tell me if you don't
need a mastermind for A/B testing, right?
Yeah.
Done it in all kinds of different areas in our field, right? So for any PPC marketing or Facebook marketing, we say, oh, we need a mastermind. Okay, so then we go to either the conferences, we're meeting people, we're digging into our network, and then we literally go through the same interview process as if we're bringing them in-house. And let me tell you, Mike, that's another huge thing. Let me tell you, when you're building, look at this interview process for this girl. Look how many questions I have for this new girl. Look at this. It's a book. It takes 4 days to get through this with this lady, right? And it's a deep conversation, do they fit the values of the company? Do they fit the skill set that we need? Where's their real passion? What results have they really have? And they have to prove their results. We need to see them and hear them. We gotta know that's going on. So we go through this deep interview process with our masterminds. Cream rises to the top. We bring them on because this is something they're so passionate about that it's not like you're going through these agencies anymore that cost so much money and gouge you for everything. You get these experts that have many teams with them and connections, and we bring them on, and all of a sudden, like that, you can hit the ground running. Here's how you set it up. Here's how you advertise. Here's the tech you use. Here's how we do the creative. I'm going to bring in my buddy. I'm going to go here. And immediately you just start going, and then we use our overarching strategy and vision and organization of processes and checklists to make sure they're not ruining it or going over, being making sure it's legal, making sure it's not going under over budget, make sure it's not targeting something wrong to really disrupt the quality of the leads or anything like that. So there's this whole process to build just as if they were internal. And then you go get these masterminds. So you do that because everybody wants to go, I want a media buyer. Well, then they throw the media buyer and go do it all. There's so much detail that happens in Google now. There's so much happens in Facebook. There's so much happens in TikTok. There's so much happens in email and being an affiliate manager. You can't have them doing all this stuff. So that's what we call masterminds. And I think that's helped us continue to scale and leverage the expertise, and where everybody's sweet spot is totally maximized, and they're happy, they love it because they're doing it and they have the freedom, so really cool way.
Do you mind me, and you can, be as vague as you want, but if you don't mind, I'm really curious to learn more about how you sort of do this with it, because it's a really great point. We do some recruiting here every once in a while, and we have there'll be times where someone's looking for a media buyer and they want their expertise, like you exactly said. They should know Facebook, they should know paid search, they should know this, and and email, and they should be doing all these things. It's like, well, I mean, paid search and alone is an expertise, and then to do it here and be great at social media advertising and email is a lot to ask for an 80K or 80K person, right?
Amen.
And so I'm curious, how do you guys? So let's just take, Facebook or social media advertising for let's just say you're looking for somebody to really a mastermind to really be an expert in running your social media campaigns from a paid social standpoint. You'll go out and find somebody that can specifically do that. Are you paying them on a per project basis, on an hourly rate? Just kind of curious how you manage it and manage that.
Yeah, I guess what we try to do is some form of base plus the commission.
You do a base.
Yeah, you got to try to come in, but sometimes those bases are so, they could be $1,500.
Yeah.
It could be $500, could be just super cheap depending on the project, which allows you to break through, and you're showing kind of good faith to the person.
So you do it on a per project basis sort of thing?
Yeah. So when we go and
start out that way.
Yeah. So if we make let's say we bring them in and we do the independent contractor agreement with them, and we say, hey, welcome, here we go. Well, the piece of the independent contractor agreement shows that project. It shows, here's the goals, here's the timeline, here's what you've kind of said you're going to do. It's this real checklist. Now, that varies, of course, right? But you're trying to provide framework for somebody. And that framework is highly focused, highly thought through, so that they can come in and be very focused, be successful, do their job and get to work, so that you can figure out, are they competent or not? And so, like you said, that's very hard for you as a recruiter, I would imagine, because it's like that's really hard to find. The world, that's how the world has changed. There used to be everything, and now the platforms have become so large that now you have to be specialized in that group if you're going to do it. Or if you're looking for the manager or the director or VP level, he just has to know how to tie all those in together. But that's a whole nother that's a whole nother ball game, right? He's not pushing the buttons anymore per se.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the masterminds come in, allows you to stick your toe in, get some expertise. That might not be the end person that ever does this or get you there, but can they get you 40% of the way home? I mean, even 40%, you have made, how much have you learned? You've learned a lot. Even if it's the wrong person, wrong thing, wrong whatever, you still learned a lot. Now you get to build on that. And it's just years of work, you know?
Are there typical like jobs or projects that you generally find these masterminds for or are looking for out of curiosity? Or is it sort of like your CMO walking across the office like you did and says, what do you think about Solvable? Okay, we need to get a mastermind to do XYZ. Does it come across like, is that sort of how these things sort of come up in your organization, if that makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Born out of problems.
Yeah.
Born out of gaps, right? Gaps. Yeah. Uh-oh, this is a gap we've identified as a team. So we have a strategic meeting every single year. We try to then review that strategic meeting every quarter, and we have monthly goals that set. So as you can see, it's broken big picture down to daily executioner to this morning before I jumped on with the world famous Dr. Faree that I was on with stand up with the team, just chatting about the next steps. Well, they're relating those back to the goals. And those goals are because of the quarterly meeting that we all gathered around. So the point is just boring it out of a problem that says, calls like, guys, buyers, we could sell $280,000 worth of calls today. Why are we only selling 108,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a damn big gap. If we could, how do we close that, right? And so now the ideas start to pour, people start, and then that's how we do it, and it's born. And then you go, well, God, we can't solve the problem. So guess what? Let's go find a call mastermind. So guess where I'm going to go? Mike Faree, right? Mike Faree on LinkedIn. Hey, Mike, how's that? What about an email out to contact.io? Let's get there. Let's get my staff there. Let's them meet. Let's start learning more about calls. Let's talk to the vendors. Let's research. Let's put an ad out for this mastermind. Who's doing pay per call in this area, right? Who's doing pay per call in finance? And you just start working on it and you go. And then all of a sudden it bubbles up that you meet somebody that can say, I can get you 40, 30% of the way there. Okay, let's go,
Yeah. Well, so, we've talked a lot about like the marketing side of things, A/B testing, but that's only half of the business, right? The other side is biz dev and sales and getting, buyers of those tax leads in there, right? What's been your strategy around that? Having sales guy, dedicated salespeople, just kind of curious how you built that part of it, because it's always like a chicken and the egg thing, right? Especially when building new campaigns is one, you got to get somebody that can take those leads when you get it. So actually let me start over, because I think that's sort of, I'm curious how you went about launching, a new vertical like a Solvable. What was first, chicken and the egg, and how did you sort of manage that initial launch? Did you just find a single person that you could send everything to first and then built out from there, or what?
Yeah, bingo. I mean, there's two stories. We don't have time, but I would cut into it. Like Forward Leap when we jumped into tax, that was different, right? I had a partner that basically said, hey, I got all the traffic. Why don't you just go get the buyers? I didn't have the page. I didn't have anything. And I said, well, no, I'm going to run the page because I want to control the legal, and I want to control, I don't trust anybody. I want to control the process. Yeah. He's like, fine, let me run the traffic. That's how it started for 3.5 years. Amazing quality, amazing partner. Right. And that's how we kind of broke into it. And then I just went and found, 1, 2, 3 buyers to just load it up and start learning. And that's how you do it. So I always say traffic's king. Wherever the traffic is and the good leads, the advertisers shall follow. That's who wins. It's not the other way around. And hey, it could be argued. I haven't even probably thought deeply enough, but that's what we think. That's how it is. Wherever the traffic is, the advertisers show up. you know,
Where the good traffic is, you
where
mean?
exactly, it's exactly, you're being very specific. It's good traffic, it's good leads, and fitting the buyers. Then you say, okay, then wait, well, how does that sales force kind of look like, right? Well, it's like we have to feed them. We do believe, oh my gosh, this is, being in a niche is so important. There's all these conferences and pockets where these buyers sit that nobody's talking to. And I'm like, you can't just go to you can't just go to where everybody else is. So we do advertising. We have these leads. They're coming in asking us for leads, right? So we're trying to create this inbound happening. There is some outbound that happens, but you're trying to create this inbound machine that's happening. And now then the referrals start coming. And once you get well known enough, it starts to come in. But it's really about finding the fit too. There's a checklist about, hey, you got to operate with a BBB. You kind of got to operate. So we're trying to just hold the standard up as best as we can, reviewing that. And we're really trying to stick with our value system of who we want working the consumer.
You don't take everybody on. There's some requirements for them as a
Yeah.
buyer.
Fired. I went up to a client's office. I saw that I was just up there. I was up in LA yesterday all day, saw 4 clients, right? You go up and you're trying to see, okay, you're listening to them on the phone, you're walking around the floor, you're talking to the founders or the managers or the marketing person, right? So you have to be able to check this, because it's ultimately for Solvable. This is vital, Michael. For Solvable, you better create an experience for the consumer that is memorable, because Solvable is a real brand. And you have to be able to take it to the highest level and only work with guys that will refund their money, take care of them. And you find that out by secret shopping them, doing all this. I mean, there's just a lot of work in lead gen. It's not about throwing up a damn page and running some traffic to it. And it's not like that if you're going to have a real company,
Yeah. And it starts with caring about the consumer,
Consumer first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Solve their problem, make it easier for them. Then we'll start to work backwards and making sure that the people that can work in there. And it's really about, isn't it the value system, man? Isn't it a value system? I mean, I should show you the values. You can go to Forward Leap, you see the values, but we've written out with videos, we've written out our values. That's like a paragraph per each value. Grit. What does grit look like? What does it feel like? Who has done grit? Here's a video on grit, like how we've defined it, right? And it's like, all of our clients, we're trying to create that community of people around us that have that value system first, because we get older and grayer. We don't want to need to deal with the other stuff anymore. So really a long-term view of it, that, man, it is long, it's hard, it's not easy, keep going. But I think we've been, now that we're the #1 tax lead company out there, and Solvable starting to become a noticeable brand and move that forward with all of its different products and services, I think we're really bringing a lot of innovation to the space. One dorky innovation is shared leads. Let me ask you, do you think shared leads hurt or help a consumer?
I think they help. I think there's actually a misconception around that whole thing.
Really?
I think shared leads are apt. Yeah. I mean, and you do as well, I imagine.
Me too. I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. There's this weird thing, that, well, maybe weird isn't the right, phrasing, but, lead buyers always think that the best thing is an exclusive lead. Well, that's the misnomer is that consumer is only shopping, with you. If you get the lead, they're going to, I would assume they're going to continue and, compare prices and other forms online.
Hasn't Jernaya and our friends at all these places proven this for years now? That is the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can, curate that shopping in a meaningful way for that consumer in one spot and location, and provide some comparisons, then they're going to get the most out of that opportunity, I think. And I think that's where, lead gen and, companies like Solvable could probably, really do help the consumer. I mean, lending, it's not a, it is true that in the past leads have been oversold, right? And that is a a major stain on the process of lead gen, and that's why, and there's the definition issue with leads as well that skews the perception of what's happening too, right? So people think leads are lists of data. That's not a lead. Data or co-reg is not necessarily, it is, but there's all different forms of intent level, right? And so
For sure. Yep.
really quality lead has to do with the level of intent that consumer has. But yeah, there really is a service and a quality service being done in the lead gen industry, which is curating prices and price comparisons with different products, so that a consumer can easily and quickly get comparable prices and make a decision. If without those comparable prices, people can't make a decision, right? And nothing happens. So I think I know sometimes there's this like I said, a debate around whether leads are good or bad and all this sort of stuff. They're without question, I think, good for the consumer, good for brands. I think the industry provides a lot of good out there. It's just, I think the perception needs to be sort of cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is what we try to do. That's why that education piece has to come in. We have to, that's why Journey, who are like Velocify and the CRMs and all those guys, the data that they aggregate for us is widely important, because they can see behind the scenes, like the consumer is shopping, the consumer is moving around. If you provide, and you have to be able to provide a shop and share, shop and save experience. And unfortunately it creates a little bit of competition for the buyer. But that makes them better. You guys got to offer more value, offer something differently, upgrade your services and communication with the client. It makes us all better. And it's because it starts at the consumer. The consumer is demanding this from us, right? So give them what they want. Like we're starting this Q&A section on Solvable, and it's because they don't trust tax debt companies. They think it's a scam. They don't know it's expensive. What do I talk to an attorney? How much does that cost? And nobody, now I'm putting the community, and it's a lot of education to say, you got to help me answer these questions, because in fact, they have a lot of questions, and that eases their pain to come in. And guess what, guys? They turn into leads. Yeah. And it's not about squeezing, like you said, money is the piece of it. You have to make money. You have to reinvent to then make it better. So you have to make money, but it's not, guys, that's way up the funnel. And now you're providing a service for the consumer that builds trust, and you're answering their questions. And all of a sudden that you're the one who answered the question. They go with you, and then they might not come to you. You got to have the attribution to track. They might not make their decision till 4 months down the line. So we're trying to just provide all that education and bring that. We need the lead gen world and all the people you bring together to help grab that information and post it to buyers, and let them know that this is how it works.
Yeah. Well, I love, and I'll wrap this up because I know you got to go, but I love, seeing this and hearing this, because, back to the early questions, what have you seen the evolution of sort of affiliate marketing and lead gen? And I think this is sort of the evolution, which I think is all going in the most positive way. Are companies like Solvable, not just putting landing pages out there and running traffic to it and turning and burning consumers into leads without a brand, but actually starting to create a brand that's giving back to the industry as a whole, helping consumers, helping their clients, and building an actual process that one could be proud of, and creating leads and doing it the right way. And so I think that's happening more and more often. I think there's a lot of companies that aren't on this podcast, right, that are doing have the same approach, that want to do what's right for the consumer and create good quality leads. And I just love hearing what you're up to, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing and even pulling back the curtains a little bit and showing what your numbers a little bit on the landing page conversions. But it's a great story, and I really appreciate you sharing it and watching. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, just to maybe talk shop or just connect with you, because I think people should. How would you recommend they do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's email me at wade@solvable.com, right? Or I think that's the easiest way to get in touch. But
Cool.
yeah, Mike, I appreciate it so much for having me on. I followed you at every company you went to. I told you this is how you make a dent. You're bringing us together, and you're trying to make it different. And just a huge fan. And so you should be just super proud of yourself. It's so cool what you're putting together. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And, I think like, guys like you, and we all have this sort of same mission to really see this industry grow in a meaningful way. And of course, companies like yours grow in a meaningful way and help consumers and provide a real service. So again, thanks for joining, man. It was great talk. We could probably sit here all day
I
and
know.
keep talking, but I know you have a company to run. So I'll let you go and do that. And hopefully we'll catch up at Contact.io or Legion World in San Diego, one of the two, if not both.
Yep.
But I'll see you soon, my friend.
You got it. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.